to say about regional currencies in Germany is that they started, a great part of them started out of the monetary reform background, and based on the idea of Silvio Gesell and Rudolf Steiner of rusting money and demurrage-based currencies. But not only, so this is one half of the basis of the movement, and then there's another half maybe which is concerned on environmental issues, and they try to implement currencies in a way that they foster regional economic sustainability, that they provide for economic regional cycles in the economic sphere, and for an exchange that focuses on regionally produced goods and services and uses the resources that are there in the region. So this can be called maybe a tool for endogenous regional development and sustainable development. So these are the two branches that brought the Regiogeld movement together. The first one started 1998 in Arnstadt, that is a small city next to Erfurt in Thuringia in the eastern parts of Germany. It was started by a guy who had a shop for organic produce, and he once came to think about money and what negative effects it would have, and then he started his own currency and started it as an experiment that was much like the early scrip currencies issued in the US. So he had a very high rate of demurrage, and paper notes issued only in his shop, and they were redeemable only in his shop. And well, the system was very small, so you can't see any effects of this. He stopped it after a few months and studied economics. So that was maybe the first steps in regional currencies in Germany. And then after a while, these experiments were repeated, even without knowing from each other. People all over Germany started thinking in Tauschring, so let systems, and started to barter between each other and use a currency and issue paper notes to do so. One of the schemes that came up at that time was the Roland in Bremen, which started in 2001 and is still there, and works quite well, but has remained as small as it was in the beginning. So maybe it wasn't even their approach to grow bigger, but only to foster the exchange within their own community, and they do that quite successfully. Then in 2003, the Chiemgauer started his experiment with a very small group of pupils from a school, from a Steiner school. It were 7 girls, the age of 15 to 18, I think, who started to design a currency that reflected upon the ideas of Gesell and Steiner, obviously, and issue that currency within their village. And based on that experiment, starting off from a school, this grew and grew and grew very successfully, up to a number that it now has around 3,000 participants, not only in that village but all over the place in the region. So there are at least 3 bigger cities involved. There are a handful of municipalities involved, of smaller cities, and especially in the rural regions we have participants in the agricultural sector and so on. So this has grown quite big, and up to now is still one of the most successful regional currencies in the German-speaking countries. What is to say about the regional currencies is that the Chiemgauer model is only one type of currency. There are other types, other systems with another system architecture, which call themselves Regiogeld as well, but which work more or less like the VIR system, or can be compared a bit to Banco Palma. Some of them are much more closely related to the Tauschringbewegung, to the Tauschring movement, the Let's systems. So you have a variety of currencies which is completely subsumed under the label of Regiogeld. And well, most obviously it's quite confusing for people from outside if they are confronted the first time with the idea of Regiogeld, that they see themselves confronted with different ideas, not with one thing. So it's not easy for people to understand. You enter a field of alternative economics, and then you have to decide whether to get deeper into it and to try to understand, or if you just use the currency that's at your place and that's it. I personally would say it's easier to just use the currency, and then by experiencing it you will understand. So it's not necessary to understand how a car works in order to be able to drive a car. You could say most of the currencies that are being issued at the moment have this educational aspect, and they're doing this for purpose. But on the other hand, it might help to be more pragmatic and not to expect of your client to get so deep into the theory and into all the aspects of the design of a currency in order to be able to use it. So this is maybe one aspect where you could change a bit the strategy of implementing currencies, or of distributing it, or of exporting it to other places. So I think it would be easier to stay more business-like and more mainstream, and to leave the ideological part and the theory a little more behind. So that would be my advice to people who try to start their own currency, based on the experience I made in Germany. Yeah, exactly. If you look from the point of view of the user, of the normal user of the currency, you don't want to be overrun by theory, and you don't want to think about all the aspects of currency when you use it. So the thing that is interesting for a consumer to take part is that you have a very immediate use value. You have you have something, you profit in a way from using that currency instead of using the other currency. So there must be a very easily understandable difference in using the one or the other. And I think if you communicate this added value in a very marketing-oriented way, it will help to spread the currency much further than by spreading the theory around. This is a big issue. Many of the initiatives don't have a clear objective concerning their own clients. They have an idealistic idea of saving the world by changing the current monetary system. That's a big issue. And then they start in their community, and they wonder that not everybody follows. Yeah, that's really a big issue. I think people should really look at the context they are in, and then look for the problems they are facing there. Which problems is it people are struggling upon in everyday life, and then try to design a tool accordingly to their needs. And then this will lead to monetary reform automatically. That's what I would say. And you will see that the Chiemgauer started as a business with a highly idealistic background, and then developed and evolved into a social business model, which is now run perfectly well in a business sense, but still remained idealistic. So you can combine these two. It's not contradictory, but you have to you must be open to the business branch of development. Yeah, I think both is necessary. We need the educational part, but we need the consumer-oriented, marketing-oriented approach as well, in order to grow, in order to reach more impact, and to attract more people to these currencies.
Yeah.
So one said it in the conference today, that we should more think in the categories of business models, and that we should look at a system from a point of view of internal economic sustainability, if it does provide for enough income to sustain itself and to keep alive, even if maybe the driving person once steps out, the system can then stay alive. So and I think this is what these educational initiatives can learn and should learn from the more business-oriented models, that it is important to transform their NGO, their volunteering organization, into a business. It can still be a social business, it can still be a not-for-profit business, but it must somehow provide for an income stream and for all the economic input that is necessary to do its own business and to go further, right, to develop. I think it's important for people who start with community currencies to be aware of the fact that they are not doing a non-governmental, non-profit voluntary work, but they are trying to start a social business. And if you step into the whole area of community currencies with the idea of starting a business, which will help other people to do their business better than before, then you have clear perspectives of and clear objectives of what to do, and what are the impacts you can measure, what are the effects you can see when you ask your clients, and what are the numbers you have to provide in order to be economically sustainable. Almost all initiatives, after I'd say 1 or 2 years, maximum 5 years, you see this burnout phenomenon. And most of the initiatives just shut down after that time. So they don't have the resources to start from scratch. They don't have the resources to restructure themselves internally. They don't have resources not even to get fundraising, to get funding for the next steps, and that's what makes them eliminate everything they done before at a certain point, which is I think it's quite sad to see, but that's the lesson to be learned. Well, in Germany we have a very well-defined law where you have to pay taxes upon and where not. So you have an issue which is called neighborhood help. So you are helping your neighbor. You don't do that in a professional sense. You don't do it regularly. You don't earn your income on it. So this is what you do in your spare time, and this is not the basis of your regular income. And if this is the case, you don't need to pay taxes. And as soon as you start offering these services or offering your products as a business, this means you earn your income from it. You live off that. You market it in a conventional sense to the retailer, or what else? You have employees, for example, right? Then it's clear you are a business person, and then you can't offer your service without paying taxes. And with regional currencies, it's quite simple that they are clearly addressing the conventional economy. And the legislation is that you will have to pay taxes in that area anyway. And as long as the authority doesn't accept your currency, you will have to pay the taxes in euro. So that's quite easy. It's every user's responsibility to pay the taxes. So that's not the system doesn't provide for anything in that manner. So yeah, it belongs to you as a user to pay the taxes. I see many parallels between architecture and what happens with the community currency movement. Because as an architect, you don't have one tool or one house that you design once and then you replicate it all over the place. But you step into a place and then you look at all the circumstances and all the needs and all the problems and all the people who are involved if you are a good architect. And then you start designing a house or a building or whatever is needed there. You make a spatial transformance accordingly to what you have found there. And by doing so, the answer that you give in one place will never be the same answer that you will give in another place if you're a good architect. Imagine an architect designs one house and builds it then in Sardinia and then in the Rhone-Alpes region and then maybe in Greece and then again in Norway. But it won't work. People won't feel comfortable, and these houses won't have the same qualities in each of these regions. So this doesn't really make sense. And as a currency architect, and I would say I'm more or less a currency architect now, I see money as a tool that that must be designed appropriately to the problems and the needs and all the obstacles and objectives of a certain community or a certain place or a certain or a certain context. So if you have a hammer, don't try to nail a screw into the wall, right?